Hello everyone, my name is CeeCee and welcome back to my channel. So in this video I'm going to be playing some more with alcohol inks on yupo paper, and I'm going to start out by saying that this was recorded over several days. It started with a live voice and I completely forgot by the end of it, so you might see hand gestures that don't relate. Forgive them. I also want to say that I've made several attempts on this paper that might influence the results that you're going to see. Also, I have been told by many people that yupo paper can be brought back to white, so you can pretty much wipe it off with rubbing alcohol or the blending solution and the paper will become semi-pristine. It didn't work for me. I'm not sure if it's the brand of yupo paper because I know there are two different manufacturers. I bought a large sheet and I cut it in several pieces. I'm not sure, but as you saw, I have in the back big blobs of purples and turquoise, and I used 99% alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, and it did not work. So anyways, I'm going to make the most of it, but just so that you know, I think it can be brought back to white if you use it with watercolor, which apparently yupo paper was intended for watercolor paintings. That's what I read on their website anyways. All right, so I think this is my second video on rubbing alcohol, not rubbing alcohol, but alcohol inks. And although I like the end results, I still struggle with how to get there. So anyways, I'm going to take several methods, and you just saw me use a paintbrush. I have a paintbrush that I dedicate to rubbing, well, I guess rubbing alcohol or the blending solution, because it does, the bristles get hard. And so I use rubbing alcohol to get rid of the excess color and excess blending solution. So this paintbrush is reserved strictly for that. And what I'm doing right now is just building a background. I wanted something super soft, and the colors I used will be listed in the description, but I'm going to tell you what they are right now. So I started with aqua, and the other color that I'm going to be blending that with is mushroom, which resembles a little bit what I have in the background, just so that everything looks a little bit more seamless. I was quite surprised that the ink was not moving so much, even when I doused it with either rubbing alcohol or the blending solution. It might be, like I said, because I have worked on this paper before. It's not virgin. It's not pristine. Although I did clean it really, really well. The other thing that might influence that is the natural oils on your hands. So that's why I'm wearing gloves. It did not improve anything. But anyways, nevertheless, like I said, I'm happy with the end result. And I'm going to keep practicing some more because I really do love that medium. I think it's fantastic. The colors are so vivid. And I'm going to be using yupo paper again with watercolor. I have done several attempts. They weren't quite successful. They weren't what I had in mind. So maybe I should change my attitude towards watercolor and yupo. But I will try again. I will persevere. Tilting the board helps a little bit, but I don't know. It just didn't move the way it moved the other times that I used the sheets that came in a pad. I'm not sure if this one is, because I know there are two different manufacturers, and although my art store says that this is yupo paper, maybe it became kind of like a common name and not so much of a brand name anymore. So anyways, I'll investigate on that too. I'll go back to my art supply store and I'll ask them if it's really yupo paper or that other brand. And the thing that I found out that's really crucial too is to let everything dry. For instance, if you're wanting to, like for now, composing a some sort of flower. I wanted it to be extra. And forgive my head, you'll see it a couple of times. It's kind of important to let everything dry before you superimpose a color, because it could get nasty really fast. You could get like mud very, very fast. So here I used two different, well, I would say 3 different methods. I dotted or dropped some of the ink, and then I used a straw to blow on it. And I'm also going to paint a little bit with the brush. And I found the best method for me is to drop some color onto the bristles and then add the color gently. It's a much more precise application, obviously, but it doesn't lay down so much ink all at once. And as you see as well, I was able to remove some of the spots that I did not like, and for that I just use a little bit of either the blending solution or the rubbing alcohol, put it on a piece of dry paper towel, and then dab at it. But you kind of have to do it very fast, and depending on the color that you have, again, it might stain. So like I said, these flowers are meant to be very abstract, doodly. I wanted to have a lot of details so that I could have fun with my doodles. And yeah, sorry about the head, guys. This one I loved, and I wish I'd kept the live voice because I got really excited when I did this one. Okay, so now I'm layering. Oh, by the way, the colors that I used before is the yellow is the butterscotch, which is my favorite yellow. And then I'm going to be using, or I just used the red, which is red pepper. And those little spidery legs that I'm doing with the brush, they're not going to stay, of course. I didn't like them. You're going to also see me swatting a couple of times as if I'm swatting flies. I don't have flies in my house yet. It's winter. This just makes the ink dry faster. And I didn't want to use a heat tool or a blow dryer, because to me this is just another tool that I have to deal with, and I find this very annoying. So I already have the brush in my hand, the little bottle, or the blending solution in the other one, and so having another tool is like, no, way too many. The other thing I did too is dump a little bit of the blending solution in that palette that you see. It's a very dirty palette, but that I reserve that for gouache in alcohol inks. Again, those little spidery legs. I dumped some of that solution in there, and then I used it to clean my brush, and also to add little spots of well, it's not going to go back to white, but tiny spots on the flowers, because like I said, I wanted to have a lot of opportunities to doodle. And at that point, I think I had in mind flowers with a few dewdrops on them. So yeah. So I'm just adding that red. I've already gotten rid of the spidery legs on that flower. I'm going to get rid of them on the big one that you see on the right. Sorry for the swatting. Makes me laugh. I had a good laugh when I edited that video. And obviously I did not keep everything that I did on this paper, because otherwise that video would have been an hour plus long. And essentially the process that I'm using is repeated on each of the flowers. So I only kept the bits that were important, the bits that you had to see. For instance, here, like removing those brush strokes that I did not like. It's good to have that capability to be able to remove some of that. And I guess having each layers dry before you start another one is also an important fact for that matter, because if I had had a lot of color in there, a lot of wet colors in there, I wouldn't have been able to be so precise in removing some of the color. And also when I added a little bit of that alcohol to make my spots, I don't think they would have been so precise. Everything would have been like a giant mess, like a giant wet mess. So what else can I tell you? Yes, I'm wearing gloves. I found, oh my gosh, I found non-latex gloves at Costco. They sell it in a big They sell it in a package of 2. I think you get like 300 in total. And I got excited because latex does a number on my hands. I have eczema in the wintertime, so. Oh, here, I had to cut it out because my head was completely covering the screen. But I've discovered that if you make a puddle with the bottle and it's a circle, you let it dry. Well, let it dry. You let it sit for half a second, or I should say half a minute, and you blow in the middle of it, like directly over in the middle of it. It does like this daisy-like formation. It was so cool. I couldn't keep it because it didn't fit the rest of the flowers, but I was so impressed. And I think I'm going to do something with that in the future. I'm going to practice this some more, and I'm going to get it down path because that was way cool. Way cool. I've also found out that it's the use of a brush. Although you can never be super precise with rubbing alcohol because it spreads, but if you know how to use it properly, you can be very precise. And so I drew the stems. You'll see later. I drew the stems, and depending on how much you load your brush, you can get very fine lines. And I was quite happy about that. Here I'm tapping a little bit of rubbing alcohol, again, to create more spots, because I was going for that look. And here's the stem. So the first attempt was, it was all right. You can see at the end that it's quite thin. So what I did for that is I dropped a little bit of that color onto my palette. But alcohol inks, they dry really, really fast. So you have to have the timing right. I guess it's like watercolor and water, like how to get the proper quantity. Alcohol inks is kind of like, it's got its own little intricacies in that you have to know how to dose the amount that you're putting on the brush. But I was very happy when I found out that I could actually paint with them. So you expect more of that kind of work from me, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I especially loved the doodling process, of course. Here I'm tapping some of that mushroom color to the background, and again swatting so that the little drops don't go too far, so that they don't end up being a giant blob. That brush is a very cheap brush from the dollar store too, I should say. So I was missing one flower. I added it at the end. Okay, so now the other type of fun starts, and it's a doodling. And forgive me at the beginning, my hand is in the way. I have to learn how to hold a pen and a brush a different way because of my overhead setup. So I do apologize. It gets better in a few minutes, but it took me several flowers to really get the hang of what I wanted to do. I used the pointillism method because for me it was the way to gradually build my doodles as opposed to lines. In some areas I was able to add more. I'm using a microperm pen. I always get confused. I always want to say permapaque, but it's microperm by Sakura. I've been asked many times what kind of pen I use over alcohol inks. It's fantastic. It writes over several surfaces. You can write with it on glass, wood, plastic, hence yupo, and even paper. So it's kind of like my go-to marker. And I've done several tests in my previous videos, so if you want to check that out, I'll put the iCard there so that you can find out all about it. I've tested several pens, and I decided that this one was the best for me. Somebody else asked me a question about sealing the work. And I've done my research, and you can seal alcohol inks with what's it called? Kamara varnish by Krylon, which I happen to have. So at the time that I'm recording this, I have not done testings on sealing it. I should have, but I ran out of time. So I will definitely try it and give you an update on that. And, you know, I'll be back with alcohol inks. It's not my last video, so I'll give you an update on that. But I was very, very happy to hear that because I have it, and it's great to have something that you can seal for alcohol inks, because a lot of people use it to do tiles, or I want to say like coasters, or totally non-porous surface. Because don't forget, yupo paper is still porous. Although it's made with plastic, it's slightly porous. So to have something that can seal that on different surfaces, that's pretty awesome. All right, so I think I'm going to leave you with some music because the doodling is pretty self-explanatory and I'm running out of things to tell you, and I'll be back towards the end. I also want to warn you that if you're doodling over yupo and over alcohol inks on yupo, there's a chance that your marker might get gunked up by excess colors, because when alcohol inks dry, they tend to leave kind of like a border around the shape. And so if you go over that with your marker, it might leave a little bit of stickiness to it. So I have a piece of paper to the side and I just scribble on it from time to time, and that totally helps. And that's it for this project. Like I said, I really love how it turned out. The process is still a work in progress. I'm going to keep doing it in between my watercolor painting, of course. And although the flowers are super busy, very doodled, I think the background, because of the background that I did, it's very soft colors, not too busy. I think it made a cohesive piece, and I'm very, very proud of it. I also want to ask you if you have any suggestions as how to name this painting. I'm running out of ideas. So if you could leave me your suggestion down below, and I'll pick one amongst the suggestions, and I'll send a print to that person, a print of that artwork to the person. So it's kind of like a mini giveaway in essence, and it's open worldwide, of course. And that's pretty much it. Here's a close-up of the flowers. Thank you so much for watching, and of course thank you, my awesome patrons, for making for keeping this YouTube channel alive, because without you I wouldn't be able to do that. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below, and I will see you later.